Binge the full weekend free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Mortal Kombat! Mortal Kombat out now on HBO Max or in theaters if you live in a place where theaters are open. Action movie, video game adaptation. I talked about arcade games last week, I believe, maybe 2 weeks ago. It's definitely 2 weeks ago. And Mortal Kombat did not make my top 5. And that is because Mortal Kombat is a game that I used to play on consoles at friends' houses. But primarily the time I played it the most was in early 2000s. I was in my early 20s, and I believe they came out with a new version on Xbox, and my roommate and I played the shit out of that game. So much fun. It's obviously a remake. I have not rewatched the original. Don't really have much desire to. As far as movies adapted from video games, they do not have a good track record. However, this movie, I would say it's not perfect. It's an amazing movie that should be seen on a big screen in a movie theater with great sound. That I would highly recommend. I watched it on my tablet, so it is what it is. Still like had that feeling, very much like Kong versus Godzilla, which the posters are very similar as well. But both of those movies are films that should be seen on a big screen. So despite this not being necessarily the best movie I've ever seen, it's still a lot of fun. It's for the most part, I liked it a lot more than I didn't like it. There are definitely aspects of this movie that I did not like. It is overly complicated to the max. This kind of through line. I mean, the video game is just a fighting game where you get matched up and you fight each other, and that's it. There is a backstory to it, which I never really, I don't remember at all. I'm sure this movie is fairly close to whatever the through line is in the Mortal Kombat lore, the history of Mortal Kombat. But I don't care. It's like these wars between different like universes or whatever, and it's stupid. I mean, all I'm here for, action movies are a lot like porn, right? We're not there for the story. If it has a good story and I'm not fast forwarding to the good parts, then yeah, I'll watch it. Like The Matrix had a great story, maybe a little bit overcomplicated at times, but it elevated that action movie to a new level with a well done story. This one could have done out with a story. I mean, it was like all of these events were taking place prior to a tournament that's supposed to happen. All they had to do was make the tournament happen. I mean, the characters in this movie like literally make a tournament, like quote unquote tournament happen. It's not really a tournament. They just make a bunch of different battles happen in a bunch of different places. But overly complicated, far too many characters in this movie. As I said, I mean, it's been almost 20 years since I've played Mortal Kombat. I'm sure they've added more characters since I played 20 years ago. And I don't know who probably 75-80% of these characters are in this movie. And they put in a lot of characters. Obviously, the movie starts off pretty epic. The intro to this movie takes place in like ancient Japan or China. I don't know exactly where these characters are from, but it's kind of the prequel to Sub-Zero and the Scorpion characters, which are two of the most iconic characters. They're both on the posters. Obviously, we've all seen the Sub-Zero scenes from this film of the icicles kind of forming and making a blade. The special effects, for the most part, were pretty great. But yeah, that opening sequence is amazing. And then it jumps to current day, where you're seeing our main character, Cole Young, played by Louis Tan. He's an MMA fighter, and he's kind of he's kind of just like a guy who takes fights on short notice and loses a lot. The one thing I hate about action movies now that I've been a MMA fan for, I mean, easily over a decade. Anytime there's fighting in movies, it's generally pretty bad. He fights an MMA fight in this film, takes a fight on short notice. His daughter is the cornerman for some reason, and he almost kind of gets in an armbar, kind of, but then easily gets overtaken, gets ground and pounded. It just it put actually he was finished in a move that doesn't happen. He's like he's been put in the crucifix position by this opponent, and the opponent's just doing a neck crank. Just he's got his hands, his arms, crucifix like Jesus, or any of the other people that died on a cross back in those days, and then he's just pulling his head to the side, and that's how he tapped out. Which is not a move. That's like wrestling. It's like whoever was in charge of the fight choreography probably is more of a wrestler, like not real wrestling, but like the WWE kind of wrestling, the fake kind of male soap opera wrestling, which is stupid. Like for me, it's unwatchable because it's not real. And I've seen a lot of real stuff, and then they're trying to make this stuff like pretend that that's real, and I just can't go along with it because I've seen far too many real shit. Which there are some action movies that do portray fighting in a good way. Extraction was a movie that came out recently that does a really good job with the fight scenes. But anyway, aside from that fight scene, all of the fight scenes between characters are pretty good. I mean, because there are so many characters. There's this character Jax, who I ultimately don't like. He ends up getting a fight scene with some guy who I didn't know the character, and is pretty stupid. Everything with Sub-Zero is amazing. Everything when Scorpion shows up is amazing, which it surprised me how long into this movie it takes for Scorpion to show up. The main character, Cole Young, as far as acting wise, he is pretty horrible, I would say. He is just, there's nothing. I would imagine he's in a lot of action films. He probably has a background in martial arts, so it adds to that. But his ability to act is not very good. Like he is, if you were to say, like most people say similar things or would have similar feelings about Keanu Reeves and his ability to act, I would say this guy is like 2 notches below Keanu Reeves' ability to react. Like at least Keanu has like, he's Keanu Reeves and everything. Like he's kind of almost like a dopey surfer kind of guy. Where Louis Tan is just he just feels like a blank slate. Him and the woman that plays Sonya, not good. Kano was amazing. Kano, as far as like comic relief, amazing. Blows everybody out of the water. So there's some characters I like, some characters I didn't like. The CG for the most part is great until they get that big, what is his name, like Goro or something like that. I don't know, the big like 4-armed monster guy that's in Mortal Kombat. That there's a fight scene with him and Cole. Like Cole gets kicked out. There's like a training montage, and he gets kicked out because he can't get in touch with his supernatural power thing that they're all supposed to develop. And there's a fight scene with the big monster guy, and it's like, it's just, I don't know. There's some stuff that I didn't care about. Just so many characters. I think if they stripped half of the characters away, they made it just like a basic kind of like blood sport kind of premise where they're going to this tournament. You set things up because they clearly set up for a sequel at the end of this. They clearly set up to get Cage, right? I forget the character's name, which they don't show who it's going to be, but clearly setting up for a sequel. You could have planted seeds for a bunch of characters that could come in the second sequel and just let us get to know a handful of characters. We don't need to see every single character that Mortal Kombat video game production company has come up with in the 30 years it's been around. We don't need to have all of them in this movie, but they are, and it's a bit too much. The story's a bit too much, but it's a really fun. Like, I'm totally in for a sequel. Absolutely in for a sequel. It would be nice to see better acting. Like, I would have loved to see, like, even if they had, like, just any, there's a lot of MMA fighters getting into acting, like Michael Bisping would have been amazing. Even like a Ronda Rousey or a Gina Carano, who's a big, conspiracy theory nut person. Just like some female, I mean, there's even like active female martial artists that would have been great as Sonya Blade. Sonya did not look athletic enough to be doing anything. Like, she is a thin blonde woman with big tits. She doesn't look like she does CrossFit. She doesn't look like she does martial arts. She doesn't look like she does maybe jujitsu. Maybe jujitsu. But I doubt it. I doubt it. She just looks like an actor. Versus like some of these people, it's clear that they do stuff. They're trained either through acting or on their own. But some of these roles could have been played by MMA fighters, which I think would have been amazing. But the fight scenes were great. I did enjoy them. I would have loved to see more Scorpion. Sub-Zero was amazing. Every time he shows up, he's kind of like the boogeyman that always shows up, and he's walking slow while everybody's trying to run away from him. But yeah, overall, I thought it was amazing. It was a lot of fun to watch. I wish I had seen it on a big screen. I'm excited for a sequel. I hope they strip it down a bit, even though there's probably going to be even more characters in the sequel if they make one. I'm sure they will. I mean, this seems like this, as far as it's got so much stuff in it. It's like so overpacked with stuff, and like it would have been so much better of a movie if they had just cut out a bunch of characters, made the story way more simplified. I mean, we're talking about a video game action movie here. We don't need a complex story to set up reasons for these characters to fight each other. Don't need this crazy, which doesn't, I mean, even the story itself, there's so many holes, there's so many plot holes, there's so many contradictions to this overcomplicated story they did anyway. Like, make it simple. Give us what we want. Awesome fight scenes. Better actors would have been nice too, but I don't think they're going to change any of the actors. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. It's on HBO Max. It's in theaters now. It's 2021's Mortal Kombat. Check it out. Get yourself some amazing coffee from an independent brewer out in Thetford Center, Vermont. That's right. StationHouseCoffee.com is where you go. Follow Station House Coffee on Instagram to get your small batch, single origin, premium coffee. Order it online and get it shipped directly to you. Let them know the Ray Taylor Show sent you. Go over to stationhousecoffee.com today and order yourself some coffee, and follow Station House Coffee on Instagram. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!